I spend a lot of the week out looking at fields for customers, seeing what kind of challenges we have, and trying to get my head wrapped around what the next few challenges are coming in front of us. I'll start with corn today. Overall, I still think corn's looking okay. Um, it kind of all depends on drainage and obviously how many wet holes you have out in your field, how big they are, that kind of stuff. Been getting quite a few calls on what do we do with this crop, how much nitrogen we've lost, all those kind of questions. Right now, I'm not telling you guys to give up on this crop at all by any means, but we need to have that discussion on what is economical for you in your farm, and it might be a field by field basis. If you have areas of the field that hold a lot of water, a lot of standing water still, and have that chance of really low yields to zero yield in those fields, we might have that conversation of is it really worth pouring more money into that crop for that specific field. If you have fields that are showing yellow just because of some excess compaction, holding water in some a little bit lower spots, but you really don't have any dead and dying spots yet, then yeah, I think it's definitely worth to put some money into that crop to try to get as much yield as possible out of it. So the deficiencies I've been seeing in a lot of fields is really kind of obvious. We're starting to run out of nitrogen. We've had a lot of rain over the last 2 weeks across the territory. If you're lucky, you might only have received 4 or 5 inches over the last 2 weeks. And then those unlucky spots were well over 12 inches in some spots. So um, anything over 3 or 4 inches obviously still causes a lot of damage for runoff, but we're still losing a lot of nitrogen. And really, I think we'll start seeing other challenges as well. All those leachable nutrients, things like nitrogen, sulfur, and maybe boron might be some issues out in your fields. It might be a chance to put some more nitrogen on, whether that's if you can get to dry out enough and get through the field to put some Y drops and nitrogen through the sprayer, or in some extreme conditions, if you catch a time where you can fly on some urea on those fields that still look pretty decent and don't have any drowned out wet spots, it might be a discussion on whether it's worth putting some urea out or not. As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Be glad to either come look at the field or help talk through options for your fields themselves. All right, another thing on corn we need to keep an eye out for is tar spot. Honestly, I've been out all week scouting, looking for tar spot. I personally have not found any. I'm not saying it's not out there. There is still a really good chance it's out there somewhere. It's just we're in that stage where it's really small, might be on a leaf or two on the very bottom of the plant, and I personally have not found any. I talked to a lot of my agronomist counterparts across the state of Illinois, and the only place that I've heard of some being found is more south central Illinois, nothing up in the northern Illinois area that I'm in. So obviously that doesn't mean it's not out there, it's just I haven't seen it. Now there are a couple diseases that we're finding on the bottom leaves of the plants that might make you think that is tar spot, but really after you diagnose, dig into it a little deeper, just doesn't have the characteristics of it. And what we believe we're seeing is anthracnose leaf blight. And it really shows up as a brown lesion where you start getting some tan discoloration in the middle of it. And that's just not something we see from tar spot, especially at this stage of the game. So I still think we're fairly okay on tar spot. I do think we're going to have it. I do think it's probably going to be a fairly heavy year for tar spot itself. So we still need to make sure that we're spraying fungicides at the right time on those fields that we still have really good yield potential on. So we need to make sure we're still putting a premium fungicide on, something like Delaro Complete. Highly prefer a 10 or 12 ounce rated Delaro Complete at that VTR1 stage, and that should give you a good 3 to 4 week protection to move it into the R3 R4 stage. Depending on what happens between here and the end of that fungicide running out, I'm not recommending a second pass yet. We're just going to see how the pressure progresses and what the weather does between here and there. Some of the earlier planted fields, mid-April to April 23rd, 24th time frame planted fields, they're going to be approaching tassel here really soon in the next week to 10 days. So really we need to start triggering those fungicide applications on those earlier planted fields here in the next 10 days to 2 weeks. Soybean wise, they're struggling through the water just as much as corn. There's a lot of soybean fields. You can see a lot of low spots. You can see a lot of the tillage passes where they had a little bit more compaction. Water's getting to be a challenge of getting it away. Beans are an amazing plant. They can handle a lot of stress. So I do believe that if we can get our soils to dry out, be not quite as saturated, get some oxygen back into the soil, the beans will take off again. They'll green up again once they can get some air, get to those nutrients again, and start taking off again. With the weather that we're currently having, I know I mentioned it on my last video, but white mold is continuing to move up the list of concerns on the soybean side. As we're moving into a lot of the April planted beans already have flowers on them, and they're going to keep going up, keep adding flowers. There's more and more of a chance of white mold moving in, especially with the moisture we've had and the temperature we've had. It's almost setting up to be a perfect year for white mold. So we just need to focus on those fields that we might have had a white mold issue in the past. If you've never fought white mold, I don't think you're top of the list of concerns should be white mold right now. But if you've had white mold in the past, you feel like you have those spores in your soil, yeah, we need to be moving up our fungicide application. Typically we recommend an R3. I'd probably move that up closer to an R1, R2 time frame. Let's put those premium fungicides out there again, and let's go attack that white mold that might be moving in. Some also had a couple questions on some bigger, more yellow spots than just kind of the off green, light green areas that we've had just due to water. A lot of those bigger areas that are more yellow and turning brown and maybe even dying is one, water of course, but a disease that we get in soybeans when it's wet and fairly warm is Phytophthora. If you go out and dig some of those plants, wash them out, look right at the soil line, you'll start seeing some brown, like chocolate milk looking lesions on it. The stem might be split a little bit. That is really more than likely Phytophthora. And then as the disease progresses, you start seeing the top of the plant start to curl over, looks like a shepherd's hook on the top, and that plant is dead from the disease, and it died from Phytophthora. Not a lot we can do currently about it, other than take note of it, and in future years, if we catch another wet year, our best way to fight it is with variety resistance. And you can talk with your local channel seed rep or channel seed pro or technical agronomist. We can talk you through what some of those better options might be. Seed treatments help us significantly early season with early season Phytophthora, but this is late enough in the season the seed treatments aren't doing anything. So I know that's a lot. It's probably going to end up being a little longer video than I wanted to this week, but there's quite a lot of things going on in the field right now. So as always, don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything. Be glad to come help you. Have a great week. See ya.